This is Garis, Masculist, MGTOW flyers. That is 2-3 page essays on the themes of Masculism and MGTOW, written by and read aloud by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. This is flyer number 349, entitled Masculist Advice to Convert Feminazi Witches into Nurturative FIPs. Description. This flyer gives Masculist advice on how feminazi witches can convert themselves into nurturative FIPs. Masculism is about to go mainstream, so that feminists will become biconscious. Masculists want women who are nurturative FIPs, rejecting women who aren't both. The sexbots and artwombs will soon be with us, so women will not be able to compete. Just a minute. So women will not be able to compete with them, resulting in men ignoring women in the billions, so that those women who want men's attention will be forced into being nurturative FIPs. Masculists also want women to vote with men, to menfair the gender laws, or men will not give women babies. Those women who do become nurturative FIPs will have more chances of being liked and not ignored by men. Itself. Masculist advice to convert feminazi witches into nurturative FIPs by Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. I've come to the conclusion that I don't like non-immigrant Australian women very much. They are unconsciously arrogant, surly, unhappy, deeply monoconscious, and not nice to be around. So in practice, now that I'm in my 70s with a near null libido, I don't need women sexually anymore, so I'm fairly happy just to ignore them, which is what I do now in practice, choosing to live the lifestyle of a MGTOW monk. But it would be nice to have some female company, someone to chat with on a regular, for example, weekly basis, who was pleasant to be with, but I'm finding that almost impossible, given the hold that feminism has had on Australian women's minds, turning a lot of them into real feminazi witches of the burnable kind. This flyer is about ideas on how masculists can convert such women into nurturative FIPs, that is, the kind of women that masculists actually like and would consider socializing with. Masculists are men, are male, and hence have the same desires when it comes to female company that non-masculist men have. That is, they would like their women to be nurturative, that is, giving men what women evolved to give their children, that is, emotionally warm, nurturative care that men got, usually, from their mothers when they were small. Men would like to receive the same nurturative care from women as male adults as they got from their mothers decades earlier in their lives. Women evolved to be child nurturers. A woman in the distant past who was indifferent to her kids faced lower odds that her children would survive to reproduce themselves, so this indifference was selected against in evolutionary terms. Women are quite capable of being nurturative towards men if they choose to. Women have that ability within them, but the female brain is adaptive and can modify its priorities depending on such social factors as custom, religious belief, and ideological pressure. Today's Western women, and especially in countries like Australia, UK, Canada, etc., have been strongly influenced by third-wave feminists who are out to empower women at men's expense, who have made women obnoxious from men's point of view. Feminism has taught women that they should pursue careers, which is something that the Masculists also strongly insist on, but not exclusively, since if women don't have babies, then we die out. Feminism did not teach women sufficiently that they have a time window in which their bodies are fertile, that is, lasting from puberty to roughly 35, after which their fertility drops significantly, so that if a woman does not have her 2 kids within that time period, she will not have any more once she becomes barren. Too many women mindlessly imbibed feminist ideas, took up careers, put off having kids in their 20s, expecting to have them in their 30s, but could not find a suitable male partner and hence ran out of time to be a mother. As a result of this phenomenon, hundreds of millions of women around the world are childless and barren, and hence unhappy, since women evolved to have children. Experience shows, and so does ordinary common sense observation, that women seem happiest when they are nurturing a bunch of their own kids. Those women who don't, who are childless careerists, seem surly, bitter, and if they have heavily absorbed feminist ideas, they will put most of the blame, childishly, on men, instead of facing up to the consequences of their own life decisions. Today's feminists are, by definition, monoconscious, that is, they know nothing about masculism, and hence see gender oppression as a one-way street, that is, men's oppression of women, and are simply unaware, unconscious of how women's much greater oppression of men, for example, women's financial parasitism of men, women's manslavery, the fluffy feminist hypocrisy in the divorce courts, women's red pill nature, that is, not loving men unconditionally, but rather loving men for men's sexploitability, having evolved to quickly, coldly, disloyally dump her man if he loses his sexploitability, in favour of a more sexploitable man, women's hypergamy, that is, the instinct to mate up, etc. Feminism is intellectually lazy, giving women a quasi-religion that is watered down so that mediocre female minds can absorb it, teaching that men are the source of all women's problems. So it's not surprising that hundreds of millions of not very bright women have absorbed this feminism as a religion, and hence see men as the sex to be despised, as oppressors of women, as people whom feminists and women in general should not be nice to, because men are not nice to women. That is, men oppress women. So it's not surprising that in the city I live in, which has been so strongly feministed, that most women I observe in the tram seem to feel unconsciously morally superior to men, displaying a form of moral condescension towards males. Many of them also believe, thanks to the feminist religion, that is, feminist assertions that women desperately want to hear and believe in, but they have no basis in scientific verified reality, that women are men's genetic equals, that is, that women are as capable as men, that anything men can do, women can do too. So when these women come across intellectual condescension by elite males towards women, these women are hostile towards it, becoming feminazi witches in their attitudes towards it, irrespective of whether that male condescension is scientifically justified or not. So, given all the above, what can the Masculists do to both better men's lives and women's as well? Masculists have advice for women, especially the unhappy, surly, resentful, miserable women who blame men for all their problems. Masculists tell such women that, quote, "You have to grow up. You're not going to gain men's respect by putting all the responsibility for women's situation on men. That's childish. Grow up. Take responsibility for your own lives and stop behaving like spoilt children." The core idea of the Masculists is that men need to be liberated from women, that is, to be freed from being man-slaves to women, working for women. This idea is so basic that it features in the very title of my book on masculism, that is, quote, "Masculism, men's rebellion against being man-slaves to women," in brackets, see bottom. The Masculists put enormous moral pressure on women to FIP up, that is, become financially independent persons, by bothering to get a career-competent education at high school and college, so that they do not become fluffies, which is the opposite of FIPs, that is, traditional women who expect to be able to parasite off the money of a man, close brackets. As adults, looking around for some gullible, manslavable man, to have him pay for her to sit on her fat, parasitic ass, having him pay for her to have her kids. So Masculists advise women, especially feminazi witch-type women, to FIP up. Many such women are already FIPs, but still have fluffy expectations on men, still seeing men as cash machines to be sexploited, robbed, abused, especially in the divorce courts, which are now so toxic for men that one father in 4 gets financially massacred in them, causing 2/3 of young men under 35 in many Western countries to reject marriage and paternity, which makes these fluffy feminist hypocrites indirect genociders who have to be stopped, initially via masculist scientists intellectually crushing the core ideas of these feminazis, and if that fails, with bullets in a sex war, where responsible males, masculist soldiers, go out into the streets and simply shoot these feminazis, stripping women of the right to vote, and then menfairing the gender laws so that men are prepared to be fathers again, so that whole populations don't get wiped out. In today's world, the feminazis have made marriage such a shitty deal for men that the institution is dying out. Masculists not only want women to FIP up, but to become nurturative as well. Otherwise, why would a man want anything to do with a woman if that woman is only going to behave as a feminazi witch towards him, putting him down morally and intellectually with her monoconscious ignorance and arrogance? Masculists warn women that the sexbots and the artwombs are coming. That is, the sex robots and artificial wombs. The sexbots are on the market now, with their luscious curves, film star faces, creamy, grippy vaginas that women cannot compete with, especially the 40% of Australian women who are obese and hence sexually repulsive to men. Japanese scientists have already grown a goat in an artwomb, so human babies can't be far off, say a decade or so. When men can grow their own kids and prefer to sex their bots, then women will be ignored by men in their billions. Feminism will disappear overnight and women will be clawing at each other in desperate competition to gain men's dwindling attention. When men can sex their bots, then women will become conscious of their own red pill. That is, the bitter awareness that men do not love women, that men only pretend to be nice towards women because men want to penis women. Men know that if a woman is going to allow a man to put his penis in her, then that man has to be nice to that woman. To see this, do a thought experiment. Imagine that suddenly all women sewed up their vaginas and ask yourself what men's attitudes towards women would be a week later. Probably most men would ignore women because all that men really want from women is access to their vaginas. To men, women invent almost nothing, build almost nothing, create almost nothing. Women's conversation is usually boring, lacking originality, so without the sex, most men would go off women entirely, not taking them seriously, seeing women as boring, child-minded inferiors with women's 10% smaller brains. So when the sexbots and artworms are with us, women will be forced to be much nicer to men, or they won't get one. Women will have to give men what men want, and especially what masculist influenced men want. That is, for women to be nurturative FIPs. Those women who are not nice to men, feminazi witch style, will be the first to be rejected by men in massive numbers. Such women will be spat at by men and totally ignored. Such women are repulsive to men who will be forced to rot on the shelf, rejected by men both socially and sexually. Such women will not even be pumped and dumped, since there are so many other women who will be nurturative FIPs that men will have plenty of choices. Masculists also want women who want to have babies to vote with men, to menfair the gender laws. The fluffy feminist hypocrites have made divorce and hence marriage so toxic for men that most young men reject marriage and paternity. Masculist influenced men tell women that women must vote with men to menfair the gender laws or women will not have babies. Men have a monopoly over the supply of sperm, So with the divorce court still dominated by fluffy feminist hypocrites, young men, especially quality young men, who are the first to be influenced by masculinist ideas, are able to force women to be babyless by these men rejecting paternity. So if women want to have babies again, they have to help menfair the gender laws by voting with men to do just that. Otherwise, young men, especially the quality men that women really want to mate with, will continue to reject paternity, making the fluffy feminist hypocrites in the divorce courts indirect genociders and hence object of real hatred by politically minded masculists. So to more far-sighted women who read this, quote, see the writing on the wall. Masculism has yet to ride its tidal wave through Western countries, but that time is close. The ideas have more or less crystallized and are ready to be spread to the journalists and via them to the masses. Women will thus lose their monoconscious arrogance and ignorance and become more biconscious and hence less feminazi bitchy, as women become aware that gender oppression is a two-way street, and in fact that women traditionally oppress men worse than vice versa, since female oppression of men is so deep, so sustained, lasting decades. When the sexbots and artwombs are with us, men won't need women for sex anymore. So millions of men won't need women for anything anymore, since for most men, the only really attractive feature of women is their vaginas. But with the sexbots doing a far better job of sexing men, giving men powerful orgasms, then women will suddenly find themselves manless and hence sexless, loveless, childless. And if they are fluffy parasites or monoconscious feminazi bitches, they will be spat at by men and totally ignored as punishment by men. Thus, it is in women's self-interest to become nurturative FIPs if they want to be able to attract any attention from men in a near future world that has been as influenced by masculinist ideas as feminist ideas, and full of sexbots and artwombs. It will be a different world, one much nicer to men. Cheers. Prof. Dr. Hugo de Garis. Email profhugodegaris@yahoo.com. Website profhugodegaris.wordpress.com. In brackets, contains links to 350 plus YouTube, Minds, BitChute, Masculist essays/videos, and to the freely downloadable book, Masculism, Men's Rebellion Against Being Manslaves to Women, an e-textbook of 350 plus masculist flyers for men's studies courses.